next episode of the Landsberg Encounter. Today I thought I'd bring this to you by text because all you do now is look on that little screen and text. You don't communicate, you don't look out, you're just looking in. So all you're going to get from me today is this silly robotic voice and some text on the screen. Joking.
I do apologise for that rather different introduction there, folks. I thought, given that this episode's all about communication and lack of it, really, I thought I'd start off and just see how you reacted to a little automation, a little bit of bot, a little bit of non-audio visual communication from a human being, because really that's what I wanted to talk about today. And by communication I mean human beings being social, interactive things, and how we kind of are getting away from that as a species, or are being steered away from that as a species. So I wanted to really get into that and look at how it affects us just as humans and also as photographers, because in my opinion, looking at photography that you see around, much of it now has lost its the reason for it. The communication's gone out of photography. You see some very nice pictures, but you don't quite know what they mean or what they're trying to say or what they're for. AI has a lot to do with that. The big part to play in that is that a lot of stuff's AI or AI completed at least, which doesn't help the kind of the point or the reason for the photo shoot in the first place. And I think, and particularly when you're shooting portraits like the ones you see around me here, and when I say communication, I mean the interaction between the photographer and the sitter is key to whatever you get out of the photo shoot. And I guess this might have been tried in some form before, but during lockdown, when freelancers and particularly people who depended on photo shoots for their income hit upon the idea of doing remote photo shoots, online shoots, whatever you call them. And I didn't understand it, because for me, making a portrait or a fashion shot or anything where you're communicating a thing, a concept, just a portrait where you've got a link with that person, how you could do it over an internet connection, not holding the camera, not looking into the lens, staring across some video screen, never kind of sat well with me. Now I get why people did it. They need some money to make money. Yeah, that's great, and it's probably an ingenious way of doing that, making money. But I think that was the start of much of the drivel we see around nowadays. And I noticed, doing a bit more research into this today, see how much of it is still going on, and there's lots of it going on. You can actually get apps that will assist you in do a virtual photo shoot, and I just think it's part of a wider kind of con to get people to stop communicating and stop being in the room with each other. And I noticed some fairly prominent photographers doing it during those, conned lockdowns and horrendous way we were trapped for a couple of years, and people just trying to figure out how to make money, which I get. But I've seen some examples of piping in a photographer from the other side of the world when the local photographer could do the job just as good, just because they could do it remotely. And how that worked, I don't know, because I know from teaching a lot over video, to teaching in a room with people, to conversing in a room with models, actors, other clients, that the communication bit that makes the end photograph work will be missing, because you haven't developed that relationship, which is key to having the communication work. And an example where that might be, let me find a photograph of mine out here. I'll go one from a few years. I just took this one out earlier. This one is a great young lady called Rachel, who was a model and an actor and a singer, actually a very good singer. And this must be nearly 15, 16 years ago, maybe even more, this shot. And through working with Rachel, and communicating in the room on the day, we were able to get to a set of pictures where we were showing her lighter side, her performing side. She was just kind of like hanging about, hanging loose, rehearsing, thinking about songs, getting practice in for when she gets on stage. And I just wanted her to be herself and just come across, as in being approachable. And I think she does that on this set. I think she really did kind of give me that. I'll pretend I'm on stage and I'll pretend to be in my stage persona. But it was only me talking to her and getting that feeling, that rapport. This was the first time we'd worked together, and I always try and spend maybe 20 minutes, half an hour before we shoot anything, getting to know the person, where you're from, what you do, how long you've been modelling, what do you like to do as a model, what are your favourite things to do, trying to get them to relax and to feel comfortable to be with me in a room, because it must be quite daunting for a young female, or even a young male that's not that experienced, to come into an empty room with a photographer they don't know and be asked to do loads of different things from a modelling, acting, performing perspective. So you got to build a rapport, so person is relaxed with you, because if you don't, that will come across on the shots. Definitely comes across on the shots. But more importantly than that, they won't get into character. They won't become them, their acting selves, that person they're pretending to be in that shot, without being relaxed and comfortable. So the idea of me doing that over a video call, and then perhaps not even taking the shot because the model at the other end is using the camera and taking the shot, I failed to see how that links with good communication or usable communication. And I think that's quite obvious in a lot of those shots, if not all of them, where it's been done remotely. The key is communication, and I guess likability is a thing as well. Because if the model doesn't like you, doesn't feel confident around you, you're going to get nothing. You're going to get stonewall face. And Rachel was just an absolute blast to work with. And she did everything that I needed and more. And I believed in her performance. I believed that's who she was. And I've since worked with Rachel a handful of times since, and she really can perform to camera. But I think if we hadn't have had that kind of connection that day, she hadn't trusted me, we hadn't liked each other, she hadn't felt like she could just be her real self on camera, we don't get those natural vibey shots. We don't get the eye contact. She means that when she's looking at me and she's singing. She actually means that. I think those kind of things are key in communication in photography, and I think a lot of photographers are losing those key skills. Because as a society, we're being kind of nurtured and pushed down a road where everything can be done remotely and everything's done in a withdrawn way. And humans are social animals. I'm not so much now. I'm getting older. I'm a miserable old git. I like to, hang out with my wife and just not socialise that much. But working and socialising at work, working with a team at work, working in a photo shoot at work, in a space, in an environment where you can feel the vibe, where you understand each other, where you can work each other out, produces a much more honest end product, whatever it is, than doing it remotely. And society is pushing us down a remote pathway, and people are liking it because they have to move less, they get less time travelling, they're more control over their daily life, they can be at home more with their kids and their animals and stuff. But I think I've been guilty of this somewhat as well, being sucked into that communication via digital, and it's killing the function of society, but it's also within that killing the function of creativity, not just in photography and filmmaking, but in other avenues as well. And that's before we even consider what AI is bringing to it. So communication with Rachel was great. Post-shoot, we said what we're going to do. We did loads of different sets, but because I knew she was a singer, I thought we have to get this. I had some music kicking about. So we just did some relaxed playing backdrop. Do your act, Rachel. Feel comfortable, confident. And she did, and we got some nice pictures. And I've got loads of them on the hard drive, but these are the kind of 2 or 3 which, for me, kind of show how comfortable and confident and how good the communication was, because to go from that kind of like almost photographer's not there kind of feel to look at what the photographer's, bringing me to do now. And just those couple of slightly different tweaks on the performance give you a little bit of Rachel's personality as a singer and an actor and a model. And like I say, they're 20 years ago almost, not long after I started. And the good thing about them is they still say that today. They still communicate that to me today. And none of that's been lost in translation. And the trouble with much communication now is it's done electronically. And it's a bit like digital against film, really. We're losing our ability to communicate well because we're not looking each other in the eye. We're not meeting each other in person as much. And I'm sure this has happened to you before. You've sent a message to somebody meaning one thing. They read the message in a different tone to what you sent it in, and you fall out. Or you send an email which is supposed to kind of make people feel good and better about themselves, and they read it and hear it in a different voice, and you fall out. And also, when you're on a video call and you're speaking to somebody and they've got their camera off for whatever reason, you cannot see their sincerity. You might be able to hear it a little, but you might also hear something that's different to what they mean, and you can't see their expressions. And even when they're on camera, the kind of the distance, the gap between you physically waters down and dilutes that atmosphere that you get when you're in a room with somebody. We've all said things like, haven't you? God, you could cut the atmosphere in there with a knife. It's tangible. That's because we're spiritual, synchronized beings. We're supposed to be around people. We're supposed to work off each other's vibes. And I'm not going to get into a philosophical thing about that, but you will know as well as I do. When you're in the room with somebody, it's icy, you know. When you're in a room with somebody and they're in a good mood or they're feeling good, you know. So if you remove that distance, that contact, that closeness in every walk of life, and I mean it is in every walk of life. An example, you go into a shop now, people are still behind the screen, even though there's no need. There was never a need for the screen, but they're still behind it. There's a gap. So you're trying to, what are you saying? Can't quite hear you. It causes animosity, makes people anxious. That's just in a shop. People they don't telephone each other so much anymore. It's a text message. And text messages are just misconstrued all the time because there's no emotion on them. You accidentally send something in caps with auto caps on, and people think you're angry. What are you shouting at me for? When you've just accidentally done that. And even in things like, you know, the bus driver, probably hidden behind the screen because of violence now, if we're honest, which is another discussion. Even the bus driver is detached behind the screen and taking money off you digitally. There's not much of an interaction. There's no social interaction going on. The communication has been reduced down to a digital interaction. How can that be good for society? How can that be good for anybody coming through into life to learn social skills and communication skills? So there's no surprise to me that the next generation of photographers and graphic designers, filmmakers, artists, whatever they are, musicians, are losing or have completely already lost the capability to communicate and want to come together as a group in a room to share ideas, to help each other, to learn from each other. It's kind of becoming a lost art. And when I, as a teacher or as a tutor, try to promote that, quite often you get a response of, I'm not really comfortable in that situation. And adults who didn't grow up that, adults that I know who didn't come through that kind of way of being previously, since the horrendous government overreach and the lockdowns, they have become like that. They prefer to meet online because they don't have to, become part of something. They're still detached. They can just in and out. No communication needed almost. Just give me the facts and I'm gone. And it's a worrying kind of sign for the next generation of kids, for our kids and grandkids coming through, that they're going to completely lose the art of real communication. And I think we're thinking about it from a photography standpoint. I couldn't work with a model and actor or even a baker and do it remotely. Let them have the camera, set it up, point it, and do the lights. You're no longer the photographer, really. I've turned into Gregory Crewdson, probably, or Rankin. If you're not there in the room to do all that, to fidget, to set up, to figure out, to communicate with the person, what you're doing, what you're going to get in the end. You're going to get a big steaming pile of shit, aren't you? You're going to get something that's really nothing. They're not really worth considering. And it frustrates me because everything about photography is communication. Whether you're communicating how you felt when you're on a cliff top, whether you're communicating how beautiful a model or actor is, if you're communicating the birth of a child, and imagine doing that remotely. I'll just stick the webcam on, zoom in a bit, I'll do it from here. Shot, great. How can you replicate the vibe if you weren't there? How can you understand what happened, what was needed, I call it the vibe, but it's more than the vibe, is it? The atmosphere, the moment. How can you say that you were there and witnessed it and felt it if you were in a different room or a different continent? I don't think you can. And I think the way we're living as a society now, that the working from home, which can be convenient but also causes trouble, I don't have to do that anymore. I can just text it, I can just ring it, I've been guilty quite recently. I've not felt that great just recently. I've felt a little ill for various reasons. So instead of walking to the shop, or more honestly jumping in the car going to the shop, I've been using Just Eat. There are other apps available to get some things brought to the house so I don't have to go. And it's kind of reducing the shopping experience to somebody comes, knocks on the door, you give them a code, they hand you a bag and they go, as opposed to going up to the local co-op, speaking to the people that we know there because we've shopped there for years, saying to old John, how you doing, mate, how you going, can't believe you haven't bloody retired yet. Just in this last month or so, that's gone, because I've resorted to using the convenient way because I've not felt that well. And I can feel myself getting sucked into that way of existing. And I don't want to, because I think, like I said, the older I've got, I'm less inclined to go and socialise, particularly in pubs and that kind of chaos. I like to be relaxed with my wife, visiting places, doing stuff, doing photography, walking the dogs. That's my kind of way to exist and relax now. But even walking the dogs, seeing people on the field. I met a nice chap the other day who's got an old Labrador, and we got talking about his older lab and our younger labs, and now they're great and all that other stuff. And a few days before that, I had a woman attack me and call me all the names under the sun because our dog was off the lead and she was just a lunatic. But there's communication there. I mean, what we're going to do next? Get an Alexa-style robot to take the dog around the block and just watch it on camera. I mean, I jest, but it feels like that's kind of where we're going as a society. And, just rooting it back to photography again, I think in 2022 when I went up to Salford Keys with a model called Daniela. And Daniela, I want to say, was or is from Romania. But I don't want to insult her, so that might be slightly wrong, but certainly she's from that area. And again, we'd spoke back via email about a portfolio shoot. We'd never met before. I drove to Manchester to Salford, parked at the Salford Quays and walked down to the meter. She came on the train, and we met. We'd met for the first time on the street with lots of people around, but we didn't know each other from Adam. So it's my job straight away to communicate that she's safe, we're in a public space, I'm not a monster. She gets a nice greeting, ask her how she's doing. I ask her if she wants to have a cup of tea or coffee before we get started. We talk about the weather, it's quite moody. So Daniela says, let's do it now because look at the mood. I'm thinking, this is great, we're on the same page. How could I have done that if I was on a iPad talking to her? She was standing the iPad on the tripod, leaning on the back of the thing, and I'm taking the picture. All of that communication gets lost. And think about, I've worked with Daniela a couple of times since, and the good thing about Daniela is it's easy because she's a great communicator. She's clearly into communication, likes to talk to people, likes to be a bit adventurous, a bit crazy, a bit nuts. And that does work mostly for models. But if we just look at this set that I shot over and think about connection. If you look at most of these shots, if not all of them, there's eye contact. We're looking, she's looking straight at the lens, I'm looking straight at her. Give me some attitude. Give me some confidence. Show the viewers that you're a confident young girl. We're in a fab outfit. You're outside. It's blustery. It's going to piss it down in a minute. But you don't care. And that's exactly what she did. And we did a range of different stuff on this shoot in terms of outfits and looks. But on everything, she nailed it. And she nailed it because we communicated and our communication was good. We were both there. We were both in the moment. We both felt the rain. Could smell the rain. You know, when the rain's coming, you can smell it. That happened towards the end. The sun had come out as we were going along. You can see on some of these where the sun's come out. This one here particularly, we've got a great little golden hour going on there. But not long after that, the heavens opened and it decided to piss it down. And luckily, we'd kind of pre-planned for that. So Daniela got the umbrella and we got the umbrella out. But again, communication and connection. What should we do here? We're looking at the set and I'm thinking, well, it's a bit kind of like high streety, a bit shopping centre-y. It's Salford Quays if you've ever been there. So I said, why don't you just walk down to the end of the street with your brolly, walk back towards me and do what you would do if you're out shopping, and it just started to piss it down. So that's what she did. And we did a couple of passes of her walking away, coming back, and she nailed every one. I probably took about 60 pictures for this, but could have used them all probably. And there are some that are a bit more nailed on than others, but again, it's communication. And that shot that's on screen now says, young, hip, trendy girl, out shopping, got caught in the rain, popped her umbrella up, looks great. And it could have been an advert for X, Y, or Z. Outfit, perfume, shopping centre, sunglasses, could have been an outfit for an advert for anything. And I think I've got a version of this where I've cropped out the guy in the background and that, and it looks a bit sterile. This looks actually quite nailed on. And so that whole set kind of exists because of the way I communicate as a photographer. And again, I know I always hark back to David Bailey and the way he is with his subjects. You know, let's get to know you. Bang, bang, bang. Let's go and have a cup of tea. We're done. I like that. I like it for a couple of reasons. One, people relax, like I've just talked to you about the few shoots I've just shown you here. People relax, they get friendly, they trust you, they feel empowered. And that's a big thing for me within communication. Whether I'm talking about models, actors, clients, students, staff, colleagues, you cannot beat empowering people properly by making them think, oh, I can do this. It believes in me. That's the best gift as a communicator you can give to anybody. The power of empowerment. And so if you look at this whole set, which we kind of did quite playfully, and I got down some weird angles because I just thought that looked f***ing great. I mean, I just really like that. Look at the confidence. It's pissing rain. Look at me. Off shopping. You. I really like that. And much of the stuff we did, again, that's quite playful. Look at it. I don't care if it's raining. Sun's out over there. I'll walk over there. The communication is there. The picture communicates what I wanted it to do and what Danielle wanted it to do. And it does that primarily because our communication was good. And without our strict, friendly, intuitive, quite playful communication, that's dog shit. She looks fed up. I've not really tried. I just want to get through the shoot, and it all goes to shit. So, luckily that I can communicate quite well. I've done it for most of my life, either as a musician, then as a publican, and then as a photographer and a teacher. Without being a good communicator in those circumstances, your whole job's fucked. You're not doing anything. As a musician, if you can't communicate, what you're doing? If you can't communicate how you feel on stage, how you feel about the song, how you feel about the lyrics you wrote, how you feel about the tune you wrote, fuck off and do something else. As a publican, as difficult as that is sometimes, particularly when you get arseholes coming to the bar and whatnot, if you're not there with a smile on your face and communicating, making people feel like spending money, you're not getting any money. And some of my favourite memories are of running bars and pubs and having people not want to go home because they've had such a great time. And again, in photography, I could probably, in 20 years I've been doing this, I can probably count on one hand the amount of people who have pissed me off or I've pissed off or I don't work with. Most people you can get through to with empowerment and good communication, and you make them feel like they're really in the zone. And that's not just models and actors, that's also people who have come as clients and they trust you. They're in the room with you where you're photographing their packages or their products or their dog or whatever it is. They believe in you and they relax and the dog relaxes, or they're happy with the packet shots because you've just explained to them what you've done. Communication in photography is everything, whether it's getting people on side or whether it's making the picture say what you wanted it to say. And that art has been diluted and watered down quite purposely by the nefarious entities, shall we say, that actually do rule the world. And some of this is like a bit of a side effect. I mean, I don't think particularly the psychopaths in charge care whether people make photographs which speak to people. That's just a consequence of making people or forcing people or convincing people to stop communicating how we should with our eyes, ears and mouth. And I think it's time we draw a line in the sand and say, let's start communicating again properly. And we can do that quite easily by firstly, quite simply, meeting each other more. So yeah, we have to start talking to each other, meeting each other. And I'll never do an online photo shoot. As long as my arsehole points downwards, I will not do an online photo shoot. Because what's the point? Even if Vogue said to me, Lance, we love your work, but we can't afford to fly you out to, I don't know, Brazil. But we can do it online. I'd say thanks for the offer very much, Vogue. But no, I'm not interested in communicating via satellite. I'm just not interested in that. I want to meet the people, feel their vibe, give them my vibe, feel what the atmosphere is like in the room or on the beach or wherever it is. See what that real-time collaboration does to people's like output, their attitude, their want, their desire, their creativity. We need to look each other in the eye and trust each other to make the best work. And as I said previously, the nefarious who are in charge of us, really, the people who are really pulling the strings, want us to be divided. They want us to be insular. They want us to be sat alone in a room, worrying about the world and communicating with each other in such a way that it's contrived and it's loose and it's meaningless and it's also kind of like watered down, as in An example would be, you can't say that. You can't say that. You don't use that word. Don't say this. Don't say that. Now, I'm not talking about not being an horrible twat to people. I'm not talking about not being awful. But you can't say that. Don't use that word. All that does is waters down language. And we're predominantly verbal animals. We talk to each other. We listen. We're supposed to listen. If we're not using words because we don't want to upset anybody, we're not communicating properly. We're not communicating our true feelings. We're not communicating what we really mean. If we say, oh, it's grey, when really it's black, because we don't want to say black because somebody might be offended, then we haven't communicated the truth. So how can that person then respond to the truth and give you their truth? If you're all watering down your opinions and what you think because you're a bit scared of offending people, you might as well not. And when people are communicating via text or email, they do tend to water things down and not use words because that word's it's proof. They said it if it's in a word. If it's in an email or text, it's proof. Some people are self-censoring, and I see it all the time in creativity. People are self-censoring. I'll show you an example of self-censoring. Around 2010, I think it was, I did a photo shoot with this lovely lady, Gina Swire, and it was for a magazine called Just As Beautiful, and it was a new magazine, and it was aimed at readers who were just normal. So not your size 0, size 1s and 2s kind of people. It was people who were just normal, who were what the industry calls plus size, but to you and me and the average person, are just normal. And so the magazine was called Just As Beautiful, and the ethos was that it was going to be full of plus size models, actors, entertainers, cooks, chefs, all that kind of stuff, and they were going to be presented how they are. No retouch, no slimming down, none of that stuff. So I worked with Gina and Nina Blakemore and a couple of other models on this project, and really enjoyed it because it was liberating. Because we were in a room. There was myself, the models, the makeup artist, the stylist, and the magazine editor, and we were all in the room communicating. And we were all, I was doing my thing as a photographer, saying, I think this look would look good. Let's go. The outfits are great, the models are great. So let's do a plain grey backdrop or white backdrop, and let's place them on them. Let's just look at them. We're celebrating people who are just normal in terms of size and shape and look. So let's celebrate them. Let's not hide them behind gimmicks and. So we did that. And it's like the shoots were so good, I enjoyed them so much, and the edits were a pleasure because apart from me just making some micro adjustments to the levels and exposures post-shoot, a bit of colour correction, the pictures are how they were. And this picture of Gina is great, and if I look through all the others, if I can find them, 2010. Let's give the hard drive a little second to rev up. There it goes, Just As Beautiful. You can see from the pictures that they're pretty much as they were, and that lady was Laura. Can't remember her surname. I'm really sorry, Laura. But you can see if I show you them, Gina was like great, and that's how they were. There was no retouch. That would have been a crop, a little bit of levels, maybe a little bit of sharpening, done. And in fact, I'll show you, I'll edit one now. I'll just edit a JPEG quickly because I think this might be from a set. I had a hard drive fail and lost. I know it's piss poor, I had a hard drive fail and lost. I lost lots of raw files. Managed to recover JPEGs, but the raw files were. So that, and I know I'm always in trouble off Luke, my brother, for not backing stuff up, even though I've got terabytes of hard drives laying around everywhere. So we'll do it from a JPEG perspective, and what I'll do is I'll fast forward this on a normal video and I'll stick this on the Patreon for anybody that really wants to see how I do with this kind of stuff. that's it, and that's all the edit I would have done. Now you can be really picky and say, well, I might have gone in and fixed that if I was asked to. Maybe get rid of that ladder. You know what I mean? If the editor would have said, Lance, can you just like fix that? I might have gone in and fixed it. I can't remember if we did actually. It's 2010, so you're looking at 15 years ago. But that's really what I would have done, you know, something like that just quickly. And that's the quick edit. So that's the good thing about this shoot was that the kind of communication, the reason for it was pure. And we all did a great job. You can see I've not had to retouch the makeup. Makeup was great. The hair's great. The outfits, everything was fucking great. Everything was how it should be on a photo shoot. Where you've communicated, you've worked together, you've worked hard, you've bounced off each other, you've felt the vibe in the room, everybody's happy, you're drinking tea, you're eating biscuits, it's all fucking great. You can't do that. You cannot tell me you can do that if one or two or three of you are in separate rooms. How do you get that vibe? How does that work? I don't think it does. And I think it shows where people are still working remotely. That communication is gone. And the brilliantness of the shoot is watered down. The vibe of the shoot is missing, and it's telling in the pictures. Now, sometimes you get away with it because the model's great. The models are awesome. If the pictures are still great, the model's saving you, because there's no way you as a photographer can communicate that message through your lens to your model. But I think more often than not, certainly in the work I'm seeing, it's not working because there's no communication in the real sense of communication. Now, the downside to this was when the magazine went out and it was, love, I got some great press. I'll dig up some press clippings and put them over this bit I'm talking about. I can't remember what they are currently. We've got some great press on it. But some of the people were saying, why have you called it Just As Beautiful? And the editor was saying, well, because people who are plus size or maybe not so pretty or not so handsome or maybe not the right colour or whatever it is are just as beautiful. And then some people say, yeah, but you can't say that. It's like, what are you saying? You're saying that they're not beautiful, really. And there was pressure on them to try and change the magazine to be called Just Beautiful. And I think actually in the end that the editor relented and went with Just Beautiful. Which kind of, again, bowing to pressure from people who should just fucking shut up and think about what they're doing. Making people lose words, forget words, not use phrases to justify their feelings. When I think Just As Beautiful was a perfectly fine title for the magazine, for the project, for the effort. And Gina and Laura and Nina, the three models I work with on that project, are certainly just as beautiful and just as talented as any other models I've worked with. Better in some instances, because they're happy in their selves. They're not constantly on the weighing scales trying to get the next pound off so they don't get blown out by their agent. They're just happy-go-lucky people who have talent and who are, photogenic and who can pose and who can bring something to a photo shoot. And the three of them were fabulous communicators, absolutely fabulous communicators. And I'd love to show you some of Nina, but I think it's possible I lost Nina's stuff when I lost the hard drive. Oh, there are some there. There are a few there. Open file location, that's it. And I've got some rescue ones by the look of it, not the originals. But anyway, but you can see kind of what I'm saying about communication. And again, not edited, just bing bang boom, done, job done. And it was, it's a favourite way of mine to work, really. I will retouch and I'll edit, I'll do all that stuff if people want it. But when you're just doing technical edits because digital cameras are shit and you're just making the exposure the best it can be for what you did and what you saw and the vibe you had. They're the best kind of shoots when the retouch is absolutely minimum, and it was on that occasion. So, but again, it was all about communication. Without the communication between myself, the editor, the models, the makeup artist, the hair, even the studio we used, didn't use my own studio at the time, I used a studio in Manchester. Even those guys were really good and on it and provided an atmosphere that was like conducive to fun and didn't feel like you had to take your shoes off when you walked in and all that stuff that you do get at some studios sometimes. So, you know, making pictures that communicate what you want them to do is becoming a lost art. Not for me, because I refuse to stop communicating that way. But some of the people I've followed for years have just become more and more distanced from the process, and their work has become more watered down and weaker because of it. And again, it comes back to more of a society thing. Particularly since the illegal lockdowns, we've become happy to not be there, happy to not go to that thing, happy to not have to meet as a group. We can do it all online. It's convenient, but digital photography is convenient, but it's shit without practice, and it's shit without knowing what you're doing. And if all you're doing is communicating through text, through email, through WhatsApp, through whatever it is, odd phone call, odd Skype call, you're forgetting what it's like to be around people. And you can see it in supermarkets, how people don't communicate. You can see it in banks. Well, not that there are any banks left. Are there any banks left? Can you even go to a bank these days? Probably not. Post offices, there's one. Man or woman behind the screen. Nobody in the queue talking to each other because they really don't want to be there. Everybody on the phone, Zombieland, waiting in the queue. Look. All that. We're becoming very narrow in our field of experience, and the next generation of creatives, filmmakers, musicians, and you can see it in music and film as well. It has become, yes, we're a quick turnaround, do it now, blast generation, but some of the films and trailers and things I'm seeing recently, it's like, did any of you even talk to each other before you made that scene? Was there any communication? Was the reasons for it looking like it looks or sounding like it sounds discussed? Because it's pretty obvious to me when you look back in history where directors and scriptwriters and cinematographers and audio guys and Foley sound and all that communicated, everything was better. Visually, audially, communication-wise, better. And you just see that being watered down. And, the kind of the displacement of people, so they no longer come together in rooms. Oh, they do, but not very often. The deleting of words, phrases from vocab, the pressure to do things quickly and brilliantly are all leading to us being in a place where we're hearing, but we're not listening. And we're viewing, but we're not seeing. And they're key concepts in communication. And my wife will tell you that I'm bullshitting now. She'll say, Lance, you're the biggest when it comes to this. When she's talking to me and I'm not listening. She'll say something and I'll drift off. Or she'll say something and I'm not even here at all. In my defence, I can't multitask. If I'm reading something, can't hear her. It's not being ignorant. But she's right, I do this. But people are talking to each other all the time, and the person they're talking to aren't listening. I see it every day in the day job. I see it every day in photography. I see it every day in the street, in the shop, in the taxi. People are talking, people are hearing, but people are not listening. And the art of listening is what makes communication good. So you can be the best orator you've ever met, but if the person hearing it isn't listening, you're wasting your time. I'm probably as guilty as the next person doing that occasionally. There's an old saying, isn't there? I don't know how old it is. I don't even know who said it. I've said it a lot myself over the years, that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. And also they reckon if somebody's talking to you and you've already got an answer to come back at them before they've finished, you've stopped listening. And I think that's true. You can see that in the world. You can see that in all walks of life where people have already stopped listening because they're ready to come back at somebody. And it doesn't take much to listen to somebody for 30 seconds, does it? And I need to make conscious efforts to this Kirsty as well, because I know it pisses her off. And I don't mean to piss her off, because she's lovely and she's great and she really does, look after me. But I find it difficult myself if I'm engrossed in something to hear, listen. But you really should stop, shouldn't you? Somebody's talking to you and they need you to listen. Put your phone down, just switch it, whatever it is, just listen to them. Stop typing, whatever you're doing. But we're all guilty of it, and I'm as guilty as the next person. But if we don't start listening instead of just hearing, and we don't start seeing and not just viewing, what is the point in communication? Are we going to let these win? These people that want to drag us apart, keep us isolated, make us miserable, make us do what they say we have to do just to exist because we've forgotten how to come together? Is that what we want? From a photography, from a filmmaking, from a music, from a theatre, from a creative art standpoint, if we stop communicating, or if we continue communicating as badly as we are doing, like we're doing now, going down these god-awful other paths and ways of communicating, we will end up on our own. We will end up with nobody listening. And if nobody's listening and nobody's viewing, what happens to the arts? What happens to the human? We're all kind of tied together by the arts. If you look at me now in this corner of the studio where I have my podcast set up, everything you can see was designed by somebody who was creative. Everything, table, the Rode mic, the Rode boom arm, the camera, the Inquisitor, the Batmobile, all the books, all the covers, all the pictures, everything's designed by somebody to communicate a message to you. Me doing this podcast is me communicating my experience, my ideas and thoughts on photography in the wider world. If you're watching this but you're not listening, what are you kidding? If you're watching this and you're not listening, maybe go back and listen, because I might just say something that tweaks your own opinion, your own thought. Or you might say, actually, I think you're wrong there. I'm going to ask you about that, and send me an email, which would be great. I do get some weird emails, funnily enough, but I do get some good questions as well. And I'm always happy to answer them and email you back, or, tweet you back, or whatever it is, to give you an answer. Because it's all about communication. And if we allow ourselves to stop communicating properly, then we become no better than the AI robots that they're trying to replace us with, don't they? Because it all ties in. If you join the dots, you can, it all ties in. If you can join dots, you remember the dot to dots you used to do as a kid? If you were good at them, it should be quite easy for you to join the dots and figure out what's really going on in life. AI didn't spring out of nowhere. AI sprung out when people had stopped communicating properly. Post illegal lockdowns. People are all isolated. Suddenly, AI is massive. AI is here to help you. And that just broadens that gap of communication and getting together and asking people, to the point where I discussed on one of the early podcasts about stepping away from AI. Why do you have to communicate when AI can do it with a few prompts? So there you go. You've gone from having let's say you have an idea. You speak to a creative about getting that idea off the ground. You go through 4 or 5 meetings where you're bouncing ideas off, shaping it, getting it all ready. Then you get the creatives and you can shape it a bit more. Well, a couple of years of lockdown, a couple of years of separating that. Suddenly AI with a prompt will do all that for you. Where do humans go? What happens to the humans? It's a plan. It's not happened by accident. It's a plan. There's a plan there to make you not communicate, to lose your humanity, to lose your communication skills, to keep you on your own in your bedroom or wherever you are, your flat, your mansion. and keep you away from people and keep you away from communicating. And they sell it to you as AI is your friend, AI is going to save you. You don't have to do all that anymore. AI will do it for you. We used to joke that when I was a musician, we used to come together and rehearse 5 or 6 times a week. We're always bloody rehearsing, to be honest with you. So half the reason I went deaf. And part of that was the fun. It was the communication. It was the getting it together. It was the vibe. All that was there. But now, the joke that, my stepson Evan, for example, has got all the recording kit in his bedroom that I couldn't have dreamed of when I was a musician. And he can potentially do it all in his bedroom. He can record bass, drums, guitar, keyboards, orchestra, all thing, backing vocals, whatever he wants in his bedroom on the kit. But where's the communication? Where's his experience and his songs he's writing to communicate to the outer world? Now, luckily, he goes to college, so he meets people, he does rehearse. He's got a band, all that kind of stuff. But you don't have to have that. And now, with AI prompts, you can go onto any of the AI, shitty fucking AI things, type in, make me sound like Oasis, but not, done, job, gone, out you go. Where's the communication gone? The communication is lost. Houston, we have a problem. And as a species, we've easily allowed ourselves to be sucked into that ethos, into that way of working. And photographers definitely have. And I care about photography, I care about photographers, I care about the medium. I think it's the best medium out there. I think it's the thing that when you see a photograph and it comes, you can see that it's had its, it's been communicated well. The heart and soul's gone into it. People are, the picture's alive. I read somebody put that the other day about a picture. The picture looks alive. I can't remember what picture it was. Which is great, because if you listen to Roland Barthes and all those other wankers, they'll tell you that photography is all about the death. Photography is about death. That little bit of in time where everybody's dead, which is semi-true but bullshit mostly. So to hear somebody say, "Oh, the photograph looks alive," is what it should do. It communicated what it meant to in that instance, and there's less and less and less of that happening in my quite massive experience. And you get it when when I'm doing street photography. You get that you see stuff all the time. You see stuff. You see that disconnect. You see people are disconnected because they're on the phone instead of talking to each other. You can see that rather kind of like lame. Walking down the street, gotta clutch my phone. Just keep my phone with me, just in case somebody wants to get hold of me. And like, here I am, look, going about my date, but I'm just having a conversation just because I can't wait 10 minutes to meet that person, perhaps. Hardly any picture you take these days, there's not somebody communicating in a microcosm, in a little space. Blinkers on, head down. What's going on? Can't look out. Got to keep going on. Got to keep looking down here. Because if I look out, I might see people. I might have to communicate with a human being. So yeah, can you imagine having to talk to a human being and put your phone down and look at them? And I remember I was in Rome with Kirsty. I've probably shown you this before, but there was a boy and a girl, man and a woman, a couple of teenagers on a scooter pulled up at the junction, and they were on the phone on the scooter. It just, it made me laugh, and then it made me think, Christ, how unsafe is that? But it just brought home to me that there's a world of people to communicate with out there. There's an absolute world of people to communicate with. I mean, they're in a city of probably 1 million people, but they were not even communicating with themselves. One of them was communicating with somebody else on their phone while their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, was there right with them. And I think what's so important that it has to happen there. Can't go and have a coffee with that person or see them later. It's all about this, isn't it? It's that narrow field of vision with the blinkers on. Well, like a horse. You see the horsey pulling the cart. He's got blinkers on so he's not distracted or freaked out by anything else. That's what humans have become like. We've started going, I better not look out, because if I look out, I might catch eyes with a human. And imagine that. Imagine catching an eye with a human and having to talk to him. And that's where we're at now. And those fuckers are back that have been throwing shit around outside all day. So I'm going to have to conclude today's episode. So thanks for listening. It was not massively about photography, but it was somewhat about photography. And the frustrations I feel as a photographer that we're stopping to communicate and we've forgotten how to communicate. And if we don't right that wrong somehow soon, quickly, photography will be more dead than I think it already is. Start to listen. Don't just hear people, listen to them and respond to them. Stop just looking at things but not seeing them, because photography particularly is about that kind of communication. Stop and look at the photograph, even if it's on your phone or your laptop. Look at it, really look at it, see what's there. Have a think about what the communication is. What is it trying to say to you? And if you do that and spend a bit of time doing that, you'll see that when a photographer gets it right, when the subject gets it right, whether it's a model, actor, bottle of pop, whether it's a hillside, whether it's a look at me in the city, if we get it right, and we're not doing it virtually, it can speak to you quite deeply. And that's what photography is all about. Seeing, not viewing. And there's that old book, isn't there, in that TV series by John Berger, Ways of Seeing, Ways of Interpreting Art and Photography. Dig it out, have a look, have a listen. That'll wake you up and show you what's going wrong currently. And I'm going to make a conscious effort to try and stop being so distracted by that fucking thing there. It's difficult. I'm as addicted as you, but I think we can peace out from it and just relax, look around more, involve ourselves with people more, then I think we can quickly become better communicators again. And by better communicators, I mean better humans. Look after each other better. Pay more attention to each other. Listen to people. See each other. See the work. Get in a room. Make some great photographs. Don't do it online. If you think that there's a really good online photograph being taken out there where somebody's worked remotely and doing it online, show it me. Because I'm yet to see it. And it makes my teeth itch. People are doing that still. Anyway, have a great day. I'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Cheers.